Welcome back to War Archive, your gateway to the untold stories of history's greatest battles and the mysterious folk tales that time almost forgot. From the clash of empires to whispers of legends, we uncover it all, one story at a time. So, gear up, history buffs and thrill seekers. Your journey into the past starts right now. Make sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe and enter a world of war, mystery, and timeless. Beginning, The Falling Shadow. Berlin, April 28, 1945. The city that once symbolized the iron fist of the Third Reich now trembles like a dying beast. Buildings burn. Streets collapse. Soviet artillery pounds the capital day and night, turning the once proud boulevards into rivers of smoke and fire. Deep beneath the ruins lies the Führer bunker, a concrete tomb where Adolf Hitler prepares to write the last chapter of his own legend. This is where our story begins, and where the world will watch the collapse of the man who once brought terror to a continent. Inside the bunker's narrow hallways, stale air clings to the walls. Generators rumble. Footsteps echo. A young German signals officer, Unteroffizier Leonard Weiss, our central character, has been assigned to bunker duty in the war's final days. He is 21, exhausted, terrified, and burdened with a secret. He no longer believes in the man he once swore loyalty to. Leonard has seen the Reich's brutality firsthand. He fought in the ruins of Königsberg, watched friends die in the snow, and now stands in the center of the collapsing empire. Each order he relays feels like a moral wound. But desertion means death. Loyalty means complicity. And staying alive means pretending to believe in a future that clearly no longer exists. The clock begins to die. Hour 1, April 29th, 1945, 0:30. Hitler summons his remaining staff. His face is pale, trembling, aged far beyond his 56 years. His movements are jerky. His hands shake uncontrollably. The man who once shouted thunderous speeches can now barely raise his voice above a whisper. He announces that he will marry Eva Braun. In the midst of destruction, he chooses romance, or perhaps defiance, as his final gesture. Leonard witnesses this bizarre ceremony lit by flickering lamps while artillery shakes dust from the ceiling. The couple signs their names with hands that tremble, from age, from fear, from the weight of what they've unleashed on the world. Leonard thinks, this is not a wedding. It is a funeral. Hour 12, the betrayal. Rumors spread through the bunker like wildfire. Heinrich Himmler, once one of the most feared men in Europe, has attempted to negotiate with the allies behind Hitler's back. Hitler is enraged. He bans him from the party, calls him a traitor. Leonard watches the meltdown. The Führer rants, spits, and trembles with hatred. This is not the voice of a warrior. This is the voice of a man watching his empire turn to dust in his hands. Leonard begins to understand the truth. The war is not ending with glory, but with panic, paranoia, and desperation. Hour 24, the decision. By evening of April 29th, Leonard is called into the map room. The situation is hopeless. The Soviets have encircled Berlin. Ammunition is nearly gone. Units report being overrun every hour. Hitler orders his remaining generals to launch counterattacks that no longer exist. Troops that are already dead. Divisions that only exist on paper. It is here that Leonard faces his moral dilemma. He must transmit orders he knows will kill the last remaining soldiers defending Berlin. Boys of 14, old men of 60. People forced to fight for a war that is already lost. He hesitates. Just once. Enough for Hitler to turn his dying eyes on him. You will follow orders, Hitler whispers, or you will be shot. Leonard sends the messages, and feels another piece of his soul turn to ash. Hour 36, the final meeting. On April 30th, Hitler gathers his inner circle in the bunker's dim conference room. Leonard stands at the back, unnoticed. Hitler thanks them for their service. He claims he will not flee. He claims he will not be captured alive. The room is silent. No one cheers. No one salutes with pride anymore. When the meeting ends, Leonard is approached by Joseph Goebbels, a man whose fanatical eyes still burn with ideology. The Führer will not see tomorrow, Goebbels whispers. And neither will the Reich. Leonard realizes, this is the end. Hour 45, a last talk. Hitler meets with his secretary, Traudl Young. He studies his will, signs documents with a trembling hand, and dismisses her with a faint nod. Leonard sees something unexpected. Not rage. Not pride. But fear. Raw, human fear. The fear of a man who built a world of fire and finally sees the flames closing in. Hour 47, the final act. Hitler retreats to his private room with Eva Braun. Guards stand outside the door. Leonard watches from the hallway, frozen. At 3:30 p.m., a sharp gunshot echoes. Then another sound, a metallic clatter. The guards storm in. Leonard remains rooted where he stands. At the 48-hour when they emerge, their faces are ghostly white. It is done, one mutters. The bodies are carried past him, wrapped, heavy, silent. They are taken to the garden, doused with fuel, and set ablaze as Soviet shells fall around them. The flames rise high. The smoke spirals upward into the grey Berlin sky, drifting over the ruins of a world the Nazis once believed they could control. End, the price of tyranny. Leonard does not stay to watch the ashes settle. He slips through the bunker tunnels as Soviet soldiers advance street by street. Death surrounds him, burning tanks, collapsed buildings, the cries of civilians. He does not know whether he will live. But he knows the war is over. The Reich has devoured itself. As he emerges from the bunker district, he looks back only once. History will speak of Hitler's final 48 hours in whispers and legends, the tyrant trapped in his own bunker, facing the consequences of the world he created. But Leonard understands the deeper truth. Empires do not fall in explosions. They fall in silence, in the quiet moments when men choose survival over conscience, lies over truth, and loyalty over morality. The bunker was not just Hitler's tomb. It was the grave of millions of lives destroyed by one man's vision of power. And as Leonard disappears into the ruins of Berlin, one message echoes through history. In the end, tyranny always ends in defeat and downfall. History does not end with the fall of a man. It trembles through time like the distant echo of artillery. The last 48 hours of Adolf Hitler were not the end of a tyrant, but the beginning of a scar carved across generations. Berlin would rise again. Europe would rebuild. And the world would spend decades studying how fear, obedience, and blind ideology dragged millions into the abyss. Leonard, like countless survivors, carried the weight of those final days for the rest of his life. He never spoke of the bunker again, but every night, in the silence before sleep, he heard the distant thud of Soviet shells and smelled the smoke of a burning empire. This story is not a tribute. It is a reminder that the cost of tyranny is always paid by the world. And its last hours are written not in glory, but in ashes. Consumes itself. And its final hours are not triumphant, but terrified, broken, and alone.